It's junk. So, I got one of the trailing arms out, which is nice. That was probably a horrible camera angle. There is one upside down trailing arm for a C3 Corvette. And yeah, my wheel bearings are le toast. And so is this, because it's all smashed over, and that is all rusted to crap. And this bushing is well and truly completely gone. And so is this bushing. And this bolt I had to cut off, the actual trailing arm mount bolt. And this end, well, I probably did that when I was trying to take it out. Yeah, that's all junk. The trailing arm might be savable, except I'm really not sure why that is bent up like that. So that might be junk too. I didn't really want to buy other trailing arms because they're expensive. And I don't think I need it because I don't need more rubber. Anyway, so that's one trailing arm that would go in here. We can now see, oh, what the heck this looks like when it's all empty. There is an empty wheel well. Body on frame. Oh yeah, my body mounts are also absolutely gone. Those are supposed to be aluminum round pucks. It is like eaten away like crazy. Okay, so trailing arm pocket. The reason that everybody hates the trailing arms on these Corvettes is this right here. This is where that bolts in. You put these shims. Where the heck are the shims? Here's the old shims. So you set the toe of the rear end with these shims that slide up in here, slide around the bolt like that. Focus. And then there's a pin that goes across the bottom here that's underneath the trailing arm that holds the fork in place, and they all get rusted shut. And then the bushing gets rusted onto the bolt and nothing goes anywhere. And it is absolutely impossible. You can kind of get to this, but this is really close to this. You see it, I kind of like messed up the fiberglass a little bit when I was taking it out. But this one, look at where you have to get to this stupid bolt. Like, come on, get some light. There we go. There's some light. So that bolt head is up in there. There it is. There's the bolt head. Yeah. So this is the jack box that's right behind the rear seat. On the opposite side of this is the battery box on that opposite side. So you can't really cut into this or move this. This is part of the inside of the cab of the car. There's your main frame rail coming across here, coming down and opens up with this pocket. And then there's this cross brace or gusset really going to, there's a cross rail. The back of the main frame is right here. And then this gusset does not have any holes in it. Neither can you get to anywhere in back there. This is the brake line coming out here, which makes it even harder to get a ratchet in here. And so that bolt is way up in there. And I did cut this off with a Sawzall just recently. So there's the bolt. Yeah, and so you have to put this bolt in. It can't come in from this side because you hit the fiberglass. So you have to fish this to put a new one in. Obviously, I have to have a new one. I cut this one in three pieces. You have to fish this way up in here and then fish it through the trailing arm and put the castle nut on this side and then get your shims in here. So it is just, there's just no room. That is why on the driver's side of this car, you see that brake caliper right there? That's the driver's side over there. Come on. There you go. There's a brake caliper. I can bleed that brake caliper from sitting in the front seat of this car while pushing the brake pedal while I'm sitting in the front seat. I reached behind my back and undid the brake line for that to bleed it when I was bleeding this car with brakes, because I put these little steel lines on because I like firmer brake pedal is preferable to me. So I'm still trying to figure out what exactly I'm going to do with this whole rear end, because pretty sure most of it is already junk. But doing it the right way is really, really expensive. Here's one of my problems. Let's get close from that. Yeah, that's supposed to be 0. And so is this. I mean, It ain't supposed to move that far, that's for sure. Oh yeah, it is a limited slip. I have no idea what the gears are going to look like. So we will see. This, I mean, just the general setup of how the suspension is you have this cross arm here. The diff, it's an IRS, which was super early for this year of car to have an independent rear. Rear housing of the diff, this is considered a 10-bolt Chevy. The ring gear has 10 bolts on it. So it bolts to this cross rail here, and then this bottom side, this is where the transverse leaf spring mounts, which you've probably seen. So this spring comes out from right here, comes down underneath the wheel and pulls down on the trailing arm that mounts up there for the suspension. And then there's one arm that comes from here out, and then this is the drive shaft is the upper suspension arm as well, and so that comes out. But then it's not quite rigid mounted. This is a huge rubber bushing that always gets welded to this, and you can't see the nut that this screws onto. The threads are inside. There's no welded nut on the top here, so you can't get any PP blaster on it. So they are a big pain to get out. So yeah, this is the empty side now. So I have one side of the car completely tore apart. I think I'm going to just mostly upgrade the outside of this at the moment, and then if I blow the diff later, I'll pull it apart, probably replace it with a bunch of stock replacement parts, whatever I have to. But if I have to replace most of the thing anyway, I'll probably... The way I'm leaning now is a very expensive thing to do, which is remake the whole thing with an independent Ford 9-inch housing, and I will design the whole thing, minus the trailing arms. I won't be able to use stock drive shafts, but I want to be able to use stock lower control arms and the stock trailing arms and the stock U-joints. Maybe I'll go like a adapter size U-joint, but that's really not going to save me anything. If the outer is the smaller one, then I'm really not gaining that much by using really, really big half shafts. So that would be me. I'm going to 3D scan most of this, which you'll probably see, but it would be me really just taking from this cross member and down out and just redesigning the whole thing to mount a independent Ford 9-inch rear end right there. And then I would keep the IRS. You can put a solid axle in these things. Somebody makes a kit that you can just weld on big brackets that go up here for your 4-link, and it has forget what the arm is. It goes crossways, but yeah. They exist. It's not the cheapest thing to do either, but it would work. It would hold the horsepower that I need and the torque very well, and I could go drag racing with it if I wanted to, and it wouldn't blow up, and I could adjust it to make it good for drag racing. But this is a cruiser car primarily, and somebody said that to me on a forum, and it really got me thinking about it, like, go beat up another car on the racetrack. And that's why I'm kind of leaning towards just building the middle of the diff this like half-assed way kind of, and building the outsides strong so that if I do blow up the diff, I can go back through and redesign a Ford 9-inch in it, and then the outsides and the insides will be strong, but it'll still be an IRS, so it'll be a cruiser. It's a little bit better. It handles a little nicer because you don't have as much unspring weight. That's kind of the theory that I'm going with for now. Again, here is what all of that looks like if it's all assembled. Here's your trailing arm nut and bolt so this side hasn't been taken out at all yet. You can see those little forks that come through here. There's a pin here, and let's see if I can scoot my phone over far enough. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see the forks down in there, but yeah, that bolt is just absolutely buried back there. There we go. Now you can kind of see that. Yeah, it's all rusty. My frame is better than most. A lot of these things rust out the frame in this area. Mine's really not that bad. Yeah, there's rust, and it's a little more than surface rust, but I really wouldn't consider it that bad. You know, your shock mounts up here. Some people put, I believe it's Van Steel, makes trailing arms that are for coilover shocks, and you would weld, it would pretty much go in this location, which is kind of cool. Other people will put the shock coilover in the back and kind of go up to this cross member Shark Bite does something like that, but they use like a cantilever, not cantilever, that's not the right name for it, but push rod style setup. So yeah, I'm going to take a couple of scans of this thing so that I can go back and design stuff for it later. So I'm going to scan this side complete at full droop. I'm going to scan it again at ride height, and then I'm going to scan it again at full compression. Just using a jack stand. So the jack stand will be in the scan, but that's not a big deal. And then on the other side, I'm going to scan everything without anything in it all the way back to the diff so that I know where the diff yoke was and where it's supposed to be. And I can engineer everything from one side, because right now everything is symmetrical. And if I put a 9-inch in it, the diff yokes on a 9-inch are shifted a little bit, so one axle will be shorter than the other one. That is not how this one is, I believe. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm not sure that it really matters, because I'm labeling everything and I'm going to put it all back where it was. So yeah, that's the state of this rear end for this car. I am hoping I want to get the parts list collected, get stuff ordered so we can get through this before the middle of summer so that I can start driving it again, see if I solved the driveline vibration issue, which I'm pretty sure I will, between if the diff doesn't rattle anymore and that wheel bearing, well, and the wheel bearing on the other side are fixed, should be much better. The wheel bearing that's still in the car, that one over there, was really, really bad, and the whole wheel was actually rocking. It was even worse than what that one is right now, the one that was grinding at the beginning of the video. And I just took the castle nut. Actually, I can show you that on this thing. So right before one of my buddy's weddings, the wheel, he was going to use the car for his wedding, and the wheel, like, you could grab the whole wheel of the car and it would rock like back and forth. And I took the half shaft out and I grabbed this nut and I turned it one notch farther and put this pin back in. And so I put the pin from here to here, and then it was tight enough to not be shaking like crazy, and it worked. And I got through it, and the car didn't die. I was only going to leave him sit on the side of the road. It wasn't going to hurt anything. It wasn't going to hurt him if it broke, but it still would have got him home either way. So now I'm finally fixing all of that. I can just drive it and not worry about it. A crazy thing is, so you heard how noisy this thing is? So the last thing that I did with this car, before I tore it all apart, was put it on a wheel dyno, just at a random car shop show place, and they just had a chassis dyno, I guess you call it, and I put it in fourth gear and ran it in fourth gear. I probably should have done third, but I was like, I'll just do fourth and see what happens. It was shaking me pretty bad, and that's because this wheel, where the bearings sound like that, was doing 140 miles an hour. I was sitting still on a trailer, so I wasn't that worried about it, but it wasn't this. I'm not known for doing smart things, so there you go. That's good enough. So that was the next update video. Hopefully here soon, I'm going to collect all of the time lapses that I did from last year's builds, last year's fiasco of trying to get everything together. I will hopefully have those, and maybe I'll just dump them all in one video. I don't know. That seems kind of not nice, but we'll see. Yeah, continuing the 71 project. Have fun. See you guys later.